Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Breaking news. So we're coming a little bit early. We will have Ron and Tina on in probably 15 to 20 minutes. But I wanted to start because, folks, I think we have what I would call a smoking or exploding gun in East Palestine. There has been a marathon hearing going on since 9 a.m. Eastern in East Palestine. The National Transportation Board, NTSB, has been holding an investigative hearing this morning. Had some informative things, nothing major. This afternoon, I think what Lewis, myself, residents have really been investigating and trying to figure out for the last few months was finally exposed. We will bring on a former firefighter in a minute. I'm going to get right into it. Smash the like button, share this live stream. Again, we'll have Ron and Tina coming up shortly with the regular live stream. But in this hearing, they have the fire chief from East Palestine. They have officials from Norfolk Southern. They have contractors that are on Norfolk Southern's payroll. And they also have the owner of the actual chemicals, Vinyl Chloride, which is the cancer-causing toxic chemicals that they detonated over East Palestine. Vinyl chloride causes exposure, can cause rare forms of liver cancer, rare lung cancer, brain cancer, and other illnesses. So the owner of the actual vinyl chloride car testified and basically blew this thing up, no pun intended, and revealed some pretty scandalous information. I'm going to bring on Jack Van Kirk. Apologies if you hear any crackling. Jack is a former firefighter for 14 years with the Chippewa, Pennsylvania department. You joined me once before. Thanks for joining last minute. Let's get right to it and play this clip, and then we'll kind of break it down in English for people. Let's start with the owner of the vinyl chloride chemicals.
My name is Paul Thomas, and I'm the Vice President of Health, Environment, Safety, and Security for Oxyvinyls. With me today is Steve Smith. He's a technical manager at our manufacturing facility in LaPorte, Texas. I first want to acknowledge the East Palestine community and those who participated in the response effort following the derailment of Norfolk Southern Train 32N in February of this year. We recognize the impact the derailment has had on your community, and we'd like to thank Chief Drabick and all of the first responders for their service. We look forward to addressing questions from the panel to the best of our ability. As a shipper that relies on railroads to safely transport our products, Oxyvinyl shares the agency's goal of investigating transportation incidents and taking steps to prevent a recurrence. In my opening comments, I would like to provide context regarding our involvement in the incident and summarize the technical support we provided to those handling the response. We were one of multiple shippers that had rail cars on train 32N. Specifically, 5 cars with our stabilized vinyl chloride monomer, or VCM, were on the train. The rail cars carrying Oxyvinyl's product did not initiate the derailment. Another car has been preliminarily identified as initiating the derailment when it suffered a wheel bearing failure. The cars carrying our product derailed because of that failure. 5 other companies had a combined total of 6 tank cars involved in the derailment that contained hazardous materials. Many of these rail cars breached upon derailing, which released their contents into the environment and fueled the initial fires at the derailment scene. The 5 tank cars carrying Oxyvinyl's product derailed without breaching. The pressure relief devices on all 5 cars operated as intended, preventing damage to the tanks by relieving the elevated pressures that were caused by the surrounding fires. On Saturday morning, February 4th, Oxyvinyls was notified of the train derailment that involved tank cars carrying our VCM product. Following the notification, Oxyvinyls activated its Special Situations team in Dallas. We sent a technical team to East Palestine, and we communicated with Norfolk Southern and its contractors regarding the properties of stabilized VCM. To my knowledge, no other shippers responded with this level of support. On Saturday evening, February 4th, representatives of Oxyvinyl spoke directly with representatives of Norfolk Southern and its emergency response contractors regarding conditions at the derailment site. We made it clear, based on our expertise of the chemical properties of our product, that stabilized VCM would be unlikely to spontaneously polymerize under the conditions described to us by Norfolk Southern and its contractor. Polymerization of VCM is a very exothermic reaction, which generates significant heat, resulting in increased pressure within its container. If that pressure is not relieved, it can cause a failure of the container. An uncontrolled VCM polymerization reaction would have an obvious temperature rise that would continue through the duration of the exothermic reaction. For this reason, we emphasize with Norfolk Southern and its contractors the importance of monitoring the temperature of the rail cars. And on Sunday morning, February 5th, we further reinforced our view that polymerization was not occurring during a call with Norfolk Southern representatives. As previously mentioned, Oxyvinyls had dispatched a 3-person team to Ohio in order to make certain that we had representatives on the ground who could serve as a resource to Norfolk Southern and those managing the response effort. My colleague on the panel, Steve Smith, led that team, and he arrived in East Palestine on the afternoon of Sunday, February the 5th. On Sunday evening, Steve met with Norfolk Southern's emergency response contractors and, for the third time, stated Oxyvinyl's view that polymerization of VCM was not occurring. In summary, although our rail cars did not initiate the derailment and did not breach in the derailment, we provided technical support to Norfolk Southern and its emergency response contractors. We sent a team to Ohio to support Norfolk Southern's response effort.
So right there, let me break that down in English. You would know when he's saying we, for the third time, told Norfolk Southern the trains carrying our product, vinyl chloride, are not polymerizing. What does that mean?
Basically, I mean, that's them explaining that that chemical is not reaching the point to basically explode and cause further damage to the surrounding area. I mean, they literally just admitted also that the levee system on those tanks were not damaged in any way. They were properly working, which obviously means the chemicals were being, I guess you would say, they were exiting from those tank cars in the proper fashion that's meant to be in a safe manner. I mean, that right there, that hands down, that's evidence that there was absolutely no necessary need for them to blow these rail cars, other than them just trying to speed up the cleaning process. That doesn't make any sense to me.
And there's a whole lot more clips. We're not going to have time to show them all. But from your point of view, you were a firefighter for 14 years.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow, I'll probably show some of Norfolk Southern's response. But watching Norfolk Southern officials and their contractors who are on the payroll, their response was basically, well, we disagree. And we have 35 years of experience. And there was a lot of data flying around. For you, if you're a first responder, who would you be trusting more to know how the chemicals are going to act? The owners of the chemicals, who that gentleman was his company owns the product, or the railroad and its contractor?
I mean, 100%, it would be the owner of the chemicals. I mean, obviously, they are the on-hand experts of the chemicals that were in those cars. That's exactly who everybody should have been consulting with. On top of, hazardous material experts on scene, through emergency services. And, again, the evidence that I saw through pictures and videos, those rail cars were not damaged to the extent of them not safely containing those chemicals and going through the process, during a derailment. It doesn't make any sense. The past derailments I've been on, I've seen a lot worse, and haven't even come close to what they did there.
And this is a long clip. We're not going to play the whole thing. But after the owner of the chemical company said, we told them once, we told them twice, we told them 3 times. And by the way, after they kept telling them, we're not seeing any evidence that these trains are going to have an uncontrolled explosion. Interestingly, Norfolk Southern cut them off of phone calls and communications with the first responders. So basically, this company was not telling Norfolk Southern what they wanted to hear. So they cut out the owner of the actual chemicals they were going to detonate. They just didn't include them on communications and phone calls in the basically the 24 hours leading up to the detonation. But I want to show you this, and credit to the NTSB. They're not just covering up for Norfolk Southern. They actually investigated this. They showed a chart with the actual.
I'm losing
What's that?
service.
Okay, hang for as long as you can.
Right,
let's
can you
show
hear me
this.
now?
Yeah, we can. Let's show this chart, which actually has the temperatures of the outside surface of the vinyl chloride cars. To blow up the cars, the Norfolk Southern was saying they're heating up to the point they're so hot that they're going to have an uncontrolled explosion. Let's show you this part.
Mr. Wood, this is a graph that we constructed of the tank shell temperature measurements collected by your contractor, SPSI. The red arrow on the left is where you told us the temperature had risen to 138 Fahrenheit, and then you decided that a vent and burn was necessary. Is that correct?
I would say when we became concerned about the temperature rise, that we believed that our only alternative left was probably going to be a vent and burn. And those were the words that I relayed.
Yes, okay. Would you explain what was happening during the rest of this temperature trend? And this is for tank car OCPX 80370. Well, what was going on during the rest of this time period leading up to the vent and burn?
Again, all through the night on Sunday, we were taking hourly temperatures that were being recorded. Again, I ran nighttime operations there, so I was the one, either myself or John Simpson, were recording these temperatures and relaying them on to Unified Command. The temperatures basically fluctuated all night. Then the next morning came in place during the time where we felt like a vent and burn was going to have to take place. We had our contractors making preparations in case that decision was made. That's basically what took place through the night.
Okay, would you agree that with the exception of the one spike in temperature during the middle of the night, it appears that the temperature was on a downward or decreasing trend, looking at this graph?
Looking at the graph, I would agree that that was the data we were receiving from an external temperature of a tank that I would in no way think is an accurate temperature, the core temperature of that car.
Okay. And well, that gets into the next question then. Why was this tank car still a concern when its temperature was decreasing?
I will say the car was a concern because of our original concerns of it. It's not just polymerization that's necessary, a reason why this car was rendered nothing else could be done with it. Mechanical damage, the sheer amount of heat damage to the valves and the tank car also have to be considered. So just an external temperature on a tank with a slow downward trend in very cold temperatures. Again, polymerization is not necessarily the only thing that would concern us about a high pressure car, that it's sustained these type of damages.
So did it suggest to you that polymerization was continuing, or are you saying that potentially it wasn't? I'm not understanding your answer.
My answer is there's no way to tell for sure based strictly on an external temperature of the tank. That doesn't discount any of the other problems that are a concern of that tank, from heat damage and mechanical damage, because this is a pressurized liquefied flammable gas inside this car.
Were there? Okay. You can bring the exhibit down. Mr. McCarty, you told us during your interview that at some point the temperature of this West car, again, it was OCPX 80370, peaked out at 138 Fahrenheit and never got worse. So the same question for you. Why was this tank car still a concern in your mind?
Thank you for the question. And I found out after our initial interview that my guys who were doing a lot of the monitoring for Mr. Wood's staff, that it actually did go up once, but they kind of speculated it might have been because of another, like a little festering fire flared up and they hit it with an extinguisher, but it's neither here nor there. We had these data resources while conflicting. We had at least two data resources. Mr. Day had a reference from New Jersey Health Department that said polymerization can start at 125 Fahrenheit. Chlorine Institute has a recommended statement in its pamphlet 171 that if you do a tank shell temperature, anything over than ambient can be an indicator of internal polymerization. We had again, my biggest fear was when that fire was burning nicely since Friday night and it choked itself out. From the fire triangle, you know, if you've got O-rings and things that are burned out and compromised, the only thing that snuffs out a fire fuel feed is something from inside the car. That just process of elimination and deductive reasoning and 35 years of hazmat experience and firefighting. I can't, and as I said, I didn't trust from the moment I put the back of my hand on that car. It's one sample point. I couldn't even tell you if it was liquid space or vapor space. It had been burning since Friday night. It's certainly not representative of the entire tank car. And it's even worse with the data from the other three cars. And that's why I wanted this committee to keep that all in perspective as you look at these trends and all this data. These cars were in tremendous heat for several hours. Those cars are well insulated. That heat was trapped in those cars. And we have data that's suggesting that it could.
So bottom line, the owner of the chemical cars, it's their chemicals. They're telling Norfolk Southern, these cars are not polymerizing, meaning they're not at risk of imminent explosion. That guy who is on Norfolk Southern's payroll, he's a contractor. NTSB shows a chart that the temperatures are going down right outside the vinyl chloride cars. They're going down at the time that they detonate the cars. So they're not going up, they're going down. I'm not a chemist, but I do know the narrative was these cars are heating up so bad, so high that there's a risk of an uncontrolled explosion, shrapnel from the cars flying around the town, maybe jeopardizing residents' lives. That seemed like a lot of mumbo jumbo to me, what the contractor was, his answer. It was basically, well, there was a lot of data flying around and we have 35 years of experience. You there?
Apologize, buddy. I don't know if it's my service here. It's kind of cutting in and out.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's going on here in between our links.
Did you hear did you just hear the clip with the Norfolk Southern contractor?
I heard the majority of it and I was listening to it prior to us hopping on. You know, that Norfolk Southern, you know, them trying to explain their reasoning behind trying to, you know, blow these cars and everything like that. I mean, to me, it's all just, and none of it makes absolute sense. I mean, there's no legit reason in my eyes and from my experience for them to blow these rail cars other than, like I said, for them trying to speed up the process of trying to clean the rails up and get that line opened up ASAP. I mean, the initial reports during the night the incident occurred, they were given reports that the fire was under control, it was getting contained. And then all of a sudden they pulled back resources, which again makes no sense. They could have easily set up what's called a water monitor or a deck gun in that open lot that's right next to the main area of the derailment. And they could have had a constant flow of water cooling those tanks down. They could have introduced foam into the situation, which it looks like they might have a little bit, and they could have ran out of that, but they still should have had enough resources to continuously have some type of water blanket going over those rail cars. And again, just looking at research I've done on the safety system set up on these cars, those were definitely jacketed cars, which means it's a tank within a tank. Looking at the damage from the derailment, there's no way they were damaged to the point to where their only resort was to blow those tank cars up. There's absolutely no excuse for that in my eyes.
And does it make sense to you that if the NTSB has the data that the temperatures right outside the cars were going down, that you would need to blow
that's
them
a
up?
whole nother. I mean, that's blatant.
So no pun intended.
To me, that's absolute blatant evidence. Good. I'm sorry.
No pun intended, but it seems like we have a smoking gun that Norfolk Southern nuked this town to open up the tracks and not lose money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's 100%. There's no doubt in my mind that's exactly what they did. They were just trying to speed up the process of getting that rail line open back up for whatever reason. I mean, we're not going to get into conspiracies here right now, I guess, but there's pretty obvious reasons of why they wanted that rail line opened up, and there's no excuse for what they did. The evidence is right in front of everybody's face. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. There's absolutely no reason Norfolk Southern should have blown, one besides 5 of those tank cars. That's no excuse for that.
Thank you for pitching in last minute. I'll let you go. We'll have more on this tomorrow because there's a lot more. This is like a 9-10 hour hearing. So we'll have more clips from the hearing. Thank you, Jack, former firefighter from Chippewa.
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
absolutely. Get a hold of me tomorrow if you guys need me.
Absolutely. And the last thing I'll say before handing it off to Ron and Tina, remember, the President of the United States blocked a railroad strike last year. Let me repeat. The President of the United States blocked a railroad strike right before the midterm elections. I'm not saying that if that wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. But a lot of the reasons these workers wanted to go on strike was what played out. Understaffed, two-member crews to run trains of 150 cars with hazardous materials, brakes as old as the Civil War era. I could go on and on and on. Thanks for sticking with my part. I'm about to hand it off to Ron and Tina, who have a big show on other topics. But to be clear, you have the owner of the chemicals right there saying, yeah, we saw no evidence that these trains were at imminent risk of explosion. And the Norfolk Southern folks who are on their payroll, their response was, but there was a lot of data flying around and we have 35 years of experience. You do the math. I think to the people of East Palestine and surrounding areas that have been affected, not only do you have a massive lawsuit on your hands, but you have every right in the world to demand healthcare for life, free. I believe criminal prosecution against Norfolk Southern and any government agencies that were involved with this. By the way, this chemical owner of the vinyl chloride cars, who is right there telling you, we told Norfolk Southern 3 times these cars were not at risk of explosion. That matches the story we broke yesterday, where we got video. An EPA official was unaware he was being recorded, where he basically said the same goddamn thing. He was privately speaking with the residents and he accidentally told the truth. He said, we had no evidence that, he said 4 of the 5 cars that were detonated were under stress. So this is a smoking gun. I'm going to go through more of the hearing. Fines will not be enough. People need to go to jail. With that, I hand it over. Thanks for allowing me to pitch in with this breaking news. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jordan. And hello,
Jordan.
Ron, who is on the road right now.
Hi, Tina. I'm coming. Yeah, I'm coming here from Status Coup East for me. And I think this Jordan kid's got a lot of potential. He did a good job with this story. I look forward to seeing what he does. Good to see everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that is, just to lop onto that. That to me sounds like they absolutely lit the car or burned the car because they wanted to get the track up and running again. And it's just that simple, which is absolutely deranged.
Yeah. It's beyond disturbing. Sadly, not surprising, but beyond disturbing.
No,
I
not
guess
surprising. Not surprising.
I guess the one thing I'm like not completely clear on, what would have been their alternative to like what could they have done? Like, how could they have safely removed it?
I'm sure they have methods. It just takes many more days to do it that way.
Yeah, there's other ways. It just had to be, would have taken longer of the road being shut down. Real quick, Tina, if you want to real quick refresh your browser, it looks like your audio and video's off again.
Again?
Yeah, it was fine before, but
right,
something
hang on,
happened. Yeah.
And I'm in a
all right, hang on. I'll
basement.
leave and come back.
You're on your home turf. I'm not. And what's up, everybody? Welcome to look at this neat poster, huh? Isn't that cool? This is there's a bunch of old boxes of my stuff from my childhood. By the way, I'll see everybody tomorrow. I will see some of you at the show in the Detroit area. Tomorrow is Detroit, and then next week we got Bloomington on Wednesday night and Chicago on Thursday night. So that's June 23rd, Detroit. That's tomorrow. See you in Detroit. June 28th, Bloomington, Indiana, and June 29th, Chicago, Illinois. And yeah, right now I'm spending some time with my new niece. I have a new niece. She is awesome. She just turned 3 months old yesterday. And she's incredible. She's yeah. I don't know what else. It's like, Bobus, you're kind of just at a loss for words, you know, what would you just say? She's so cool. I speak to her in Italian and in English. I think it annoys my sister, but I do it anyway. So yeah, we'll see if Tina's back here. And once she is, we'll jump into all the stories today. We got a bunch of them. The big bombshell, no pun intended, of course, was the East Palestine news.
How does that sound?
I think you're good. Here, say
For
something.
some reason, when people come in and out, it like throws the audio off with StreamYard. Keeps happening. Sounds okay now, though?
I think you're good.
Okay.
Unless Colin has an update, but I think you're good.
Right on. All right.
Good.
Chris, I did not. I will answer that question. I did not, unfortunately. But if anyone has any way to get a hold of them, please let me know and let me know soon because the show's tomorrow. But yeah, Paul was a big friend of the show and a very active member of the Status Coup community who sadly passed away around the start of the new year. And I was planning on meeting him at the Detroit show. But yeah, if his family does want to get in touch, that would be absolutely wonderful. If anyone has any leads on that, please do hit me up right away. Placone.com is my website. All right, well, let's get to it. All right. So we got Twitter data, we got the Supreme Court, we got concert boycott, a little bit of digital rights news. Should we
Cop
start
City
with
update?
Cop City update? And also we got some Cornel West updates too that have been really should we start there? Do you want to start there?
Yeah, I'm game for that.
Let's
we have
start
Ohio
there.
Concert boycott. We don't have to go in order. All right, let's start with that. So Jordan interviewed Cornel West for folks that don't know. So Ron and I wanted to pick out some clips of the interview and talk about what's going on. Now, we have a new poll that came out from Emerson this morning that actually had Cornel West at 6%. Which
no, I'm not. I don't take any polls seriously until I hear the Lake and Palmer polls as well. Sorry, I had to. I had to. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah,
so, I couldn't resist.
Hang on, I want to point some stuff out here though that is really interesting. The 6% over number, the top number there is actually fairly interesting. 6% is really quite high for a newly launched candidate that's running on the Green Party. That's crazy high. So, of course, it can go up or down from there. So who knows? But there's definitely interest in Cornel West running. But I also wanted to point up if Colin can put this graphic up. This is from the Emerson poll. So it looks to me as if he is taking support not solely from Biden. So oftentimes you're going to hear people say that these are spoiler candidates, that they are taking votes away from the main parties and they're going to give it to the other guy. I don't buy into that narrative because I think for one thing, it assumes that people that vote for third-party candidates would be voting for a Democrat or Republican to begin with, and that's not necessarily the case. A lot of the time, these are people that just don't vote, right? So from the Emerson poll, if third-party candidate Cornel West was to appear on the ballot with Trump and Biden, Biden's support decreases to 40% and Trump's to 41%, and West holds 6%. 7% would vote for someone else, and the share of undecided voters increases to 6%. So Cornel West entering the race also has some people going, maybe I'm not certain anymore. So this is a very interesting set of data. I know it's polls, and not everybody trusts polls, but I do think it's interesting to look at. And then we have a graph that shows the 2024 general election matchups. So before Cornel West entered, you have Biden at 44%. You have Donald Trump at 43%, and you had a random someone else at 9%, and 4% is undecided. Cornel West enters the match. Biden drops down to 40%. Donald Trump drops down to 41%. Cornel's at 6%. Someone else is at 7%, so that decreases a little bit, but undecided goes up to 6%.
Well, you know what I have to say to anyone who makes the quote unquote spoiler argument, which I agree with you, that's complete BS. But to all the Democrat loyalists who are making that argument, claiming spoiler, here's a suggestion. Tell your party to have an actual primary and maybe get a stronger candidate. Do you ever think about that option?
Yeah.
Huh? If you're so worried, a third party with a fraction of the resources you have is going to make things more difficult for your precious candidate, how about you have an actual primary, maybe come up with someone less shitty? That's always an option. Right.
What do you make of the Trump number coming down?
I mean, that's a good question because I can't imagine. I mean, I guess there's some Trump voters out there that they just they're just really disenfranchised with the status quo. I don't know why they think Trump would be an answer. Like I've never really understood that,
I never understood that either, but that definitely is true. A lot of folks see him as anti-establishment, even though he's not. Yes.
Yeah, it's comically absurd, and it always has been. But some people, I think, do still see that. And so maybe some of those types of voters would migrate to a Cornel West, like a true actual non-establishment message.
Right.
So,
in fact,
that's my only.
Let's play.
Yeah, let's get to the interview.
And I do have I've got respect for both Sister Williams and Brother Kennedy, Jr. It's just that I just think that RFK. I don't know. We've worked together, and as I said, he's done some wonderful work against environmental racism. But he just strikes me as not having enough backbone, I must say. I don't know why he can't just fight for Medicare for all, if he believes it. If he doesn't, then that's different. I don't know why he could shift so quickly when it comes to Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He could say something that seems to be principled, and then 2 days later, he's saying something that is just so far removed from any of the realities and the truth. I thought he was concerned about the suffering, but all of a sudden the suffering becomes an afterthought.
Right.
And you say,
deleted a critical tweet too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I said, but good God Almighty, when I see RFK Jr. shift so quickly, I say, it surprises me because I don't really know him that well, but just from a distance, I say, oh, my brother, you got to be stronger than this. If you're going to move on this issue, when you get hit on these other issues by the interest in power, you're going to end up spineless. And the last thing we need is another Obama, who can give a pretty speech. But as soon as it's time to fight against Wall Street, no, I'm with you. That I will protect you, which he did with his Attorney General, Eric Holder and company, who came right out of Wall Street and so on. We don't need more spinelessness when it comes to standing up for poor and working people. And that's true, not just in presidential politics or in any politics. That's true in the mosque, in the synagogue, in the church, in the street, in the club, wherever we are. We try to be people who have backbone.
Okay, so he's right about that, about having backbone. I don't know why he's surprised at RFK flipping on any stance
because he's so polite.
Okay, right. So I'm going to say it. This is on brand.
You got to
for
respect
RFK.
it about him.
Yeah. So, when did RFK ever support Medicare for all? As far as I know, that has never happened. This is a guy that endorsed Hillary Clinton twice. Was very much not
more than twice, actually, if we really want to keep score.
Okay.
Because he didn't endorse. I mean, he endorsed her for the Senate. I mean, yeah, he's a huge.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
we talked about
thinking
this.
about just president, but yeah. So
I mean, just president twice. But yeah, I mean, he was a big supporter
Right.
of her when she ran for anything. A huge Clintonite, a
He didn't
huge
support
Democratic
Bernie
establishment
Sanders.
guy. Did not support when he said something nice about Bernie Sanders. He had to backpedal from that.
Right.
It wasn't an endorsement. He said something nice about the guy. He had to put a disclaimer out shortly after he said something nice about that. When he endorsed something of Roger Waters, where Roger Waters suggested that Palestinians were human beings, he quickly backpedaled from that. This is the guy who they think will challenge the military-industrial complex in some meaningful
who's
way.
anti-war. He's not anti-war either. Yeah,
It's
I don't.
comical. Now, the one thing I will
agree.
say this, just to be totally fair here, the one area where he has been fairly consistent, where I actually do like what he has to say, is when it comes to Russia-Ukraine. He had a moment recently where he talked about how Biden has to do better on that conflict and calls for diplomacy. I appreciate that. Is it sincere? I don't know.
I don't think it is, because I think.
Not.
Can I tell you?
I would still like to see it on a debate stage, though.
Oh, 100%.
Whether it's sincere or not.
I think we should keep him on every single debate stage that comes up.
Sure.
I'm not against that, but I don't think this guy is genuinely, hang on, I'm stuck on I don't think this guy is genuinely anti-establishment, and trying to paint him in this way is ridiculous. Also, really a leftist. He is now going to be headlining this Moms for Liberty conference.
Yeah, he's not a leftist. It's so ridiculous.
So just to clarify who Moms for Liberty are, folks don't know, this is a uber right-wing group. They are like female chicks that hang out with Proud Boys across the country. I've kept tabs on them for quite a while now. And in fact, just last night, the Tennessee chapter posted their new newsletter, and inside the newsletter was a quote from Adolf Hitler. Just sitting there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
So-
RFK, the fact that people are falling for him is, and honestly, I underrated how extensive it was. Because I was like, people are going to fall for that guy. That guy, here's what he is. He is a guy who is receiving his 15 minutes of fame. So now he's all of a sudden just clinging on every online contrarian thing, be it on the left or anywhere else. All of a sudden he's an anti-imperialist, except he's not at all. He's really into Bitcoin now, because that's like a big online thing. He's just trying to basically appeal to every sect of edgelordism. That's basically all he's doing, but he's not sincere about any of it.
No, do people just think he's the black sheep
clown.
of the Kennedy family? I mean, the Kennedys are, without equivocation, they're political royalty in this country.
He has ties to the CIA. He has ties to Wall Street. Never missed an opportunity to endorse a Clinton. Doesn't stand. I mean, look, Cornel West is very polite and diplomatic. I don't think RFK does stand for Medicare for all. There's no evidence that he does.
Yeah, I don't think.
When he was
I'm
asked directly
positive that
about
he
it,
doesn't. Yeah.
he definitely. Well, when he was asked directly, it was very clear he doesn't.
Right.
He did a merry-go-around to say no when they asked him, do you support Medicare for all? The answer was no.
Right.
But, you know, he did a song and dance around it, like most people in politics do for such a thing. But yeah, so you know, Cornel West, very polite and diplomatic guy. That's just who he is, and you gotta love it about him. But yeah, I mean that's
Crazy.
putting it very gently for RFK. And now that being said, I would love for him to get on a debate stage with Biden and repeat some of the stuff he's been saying about Russia, Ukraine, whether it's sincere or not, doesn't really matter. If he's going to challenge Biden on it, I'd like to see that. That'd be great. Just like I would like to see Marianne Williamson challenge Biden on some of the more domestic stuff. You know, Marianne Williamson is for Medicare for all. So but unfortunately.
Yes. I mean, and let's be honest, Biden's polling isn't great. I mean, recent polls put him at what, 37% want him to run again. So, I mean, you're correct. I think the Democratic Party should run an actual primary, but I don't think that's going to happen. Having said that, let's play the next clip.
Obviously, you have different opinions on Ukraine. She is more supportive of our role there. She, I believe, has said she believes in a two-state solution. Has been critical of the Israeli government, but I think you go further in terms of Palestine. Do you think that's a matter of her not having a spine, or you guys just having some disagreements?
And I'm glad you pointed that. You see, there is a difference between genuine disagreement and believing X but doing Y. The latter is spinelessness. The first one is genuine disagreement. And I think she actually does have a genuine commitment to the two-state solution. And then we'd have to sit down and say, well, that it would have made sense many, many decades ago before the settlements expanded. It would have made sense under earlier historical circumstances and so forth. But unfortunately, that's no longer possible. So then the question becomes, well, how do you talk about both Jewish security and Palestinian dignity simultaneously? We must never, ever, ever allow for another massacre of precious Jewish brothers and sisters, which was one of the catalysts of the very attempt to create a Jewish state. Now, even I might reject the very notion of there ever being a state for one people, but I am deeply committed to ensuring that they have a security and a safety that is real as a heart attack, is concrete. And the same would be true for Palestinian dignity, that Palestinian need for justice, two non-negotiables. Now, how do you come to terms with it? And my Zionist brothers and sisters would say, Brother West, the only way we can conceive of Jewish security is a Jewish state, which has a Jewish supremacy, will have other non-Jews who are part of it. They'd be citizens of a certain sort, but they'll never be have the same citizen status as those who can come in. I say, I understand the argument. I'm not persuaded by the argument, but I'm deeply moved by the need for Jewish security. Right. Then I come right back and say, you'll never have that security if you have a state that's predicated on domination and occupation of Palestinians. Then I go to my Palestinian brothers and sisters. I say, now at the same time, I am deeply committed to a view that does not lose sight of the humanity of Jews. Killing innocent Jews, talking about Jewish folk as if they're less than human. I have no patience for that.
All right, so I love everything Colin. I'm calling you Colin, Ron. I love everything that he's saying here, Ron, about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Number one, he talks about the fact that Israel was sort of formed because of what happened in World War II. Now, political Zionism predates World War II, all of that. You have to go many years back. And
it started as something completely different.
But I think it's important to point out that political Zionism is not the same as Judaism. It predates World War II. And prior to World War II, it had very little support in the Jewish community. Very few people thought this was a good idea, right? Nobody wanted to do this. But because of what happened, the pogroms, Holocaust, whatnot, it did create sort of a catalyst for this to happen. So he's not wrong on that. He's acquiescing to that. And I also think he's right about the two-state solution. That ship sailed. I don't think it's possible anymore. And anyone that really pays attention to this conflict sort of realizes that. And the point being is that the settlers, the illegal settlers that have gone into the West Bank area and now in Syria, really, there's just too many of them. It's throughout the entire area of occupied Palestine is full of settlers. Uprooting that, changing that would be nearly impossible at this point. So the one thing that everybody seems to think is the right thing to do at this point is to grow up into an actual democracy where everybody has equal rights and voting, and one group isn't, ruled by military power, military law, et cetera, et cetera. So point being that is that Cornel West really understands the situation. He understands the nuances of the situation. He understands that there are people that have suffered and have been hated on both sides of this equation, and that it's complex. So I thought this was a really good answer.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, yeah, he laid it out very well, and which you come to expect from him. I mean, he has a good grasp on this stuff. I think You know, and personally, like going big picture, I'm likely going to green enter. So because I want to be able to support him in the primary, in the Green Party primary, to try to, you know, I mean, I'm going to hear everybody out. Like, I don't know who else is running. I'm going to hear everybody out, but I think I'll likely be supporting Cornel West, and I really look forward to doing that. Because I just feel like I think he does have a chance to get that 5%. And especially as somebody, you know, I live in a decided state. I don't like to use the word safe state because I think there's nothing safe about the Electoral College. So I call it
Right.
decided states. I live in a decided state. My state is going to be blue no matter what I do. So I think by far the best thing I could do with my vote is to try to get a worthy candidate to that 5% threshold. And I think that's Cornel West. I'm happy he's running as a green. And, you know, I actually have something to look forward to now in 2024.
Wow.
Oh, and by the way, all the spoiler theories that are out there, that certainly doesn't apply to me. Even if Cornel West wasn't running, I would not be voting for Joe Biden. I would not be voting for Donald Trump or whoever the GOP candidate is.
Okay.
I would
Yeah, no,
leave
I
it
don't.
blank before I voted
I
for
don't
them.
think you are a rarity. I think a lot of people do feel that way, and they just don't talk about it publicly because they don't want to
Oh,
get yelled
I'm a
at.
rarity, Tina. I'm special. I'm special. My mom says so. I'm visiting family.
Too funny. I think we have one more clip, right, Colin?
Colin left.
That was all I had
Wait.
loaded up.
Oh, I thought there was one more. Okay. All right. Well, so the whole entire Cornel West interview is posted online on the Status Coup YouTube channel. If you're interested in hearing more of what Dr. West has to say about things, go and watch it. You know, again, this is you can tell how intelligent and well educated he is. He's a professor and he comes across really well. I would love to see him on a debate stage with all of the Democrats, quite frankly, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
I'd love to see him on a debate stage with all of them. I'd love to see him on a debate stage in the general.
I'd love to see him on a debate stage with Trump, actually. That would be awesome.
That would be, yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad he's running. I mean, I really am. I think it's going to be a really bad experience for him. I think he's going to be very, very unhappy. Because I think running for president is one of the
rough.
worst things that anybody could do to themselves, especially as a third party candidate.
Yeah, it's rough.
But I'm glad he's doing it, you know. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
But
we'll
yeah,
definitely keep track of that.
Cool.
So do you want to do the Cop City update?
Let's do
next?
Cop City.
Since I'm going there next week. So we'll be headed to Cop City Wednesday morning. I'll be staying through the weekend. It's next week they're having another week of action. So the city council just approved, just to give an update, just approved more money for the financing of Cop City. They heard 11, 12 hours of comments from the public. Most of the comments were against building Cop City, but the city council, they okayed it anyway. But in a bright spot, I want to put up this. This is good news. The Atlanta clerk sued for denying Stop Cop City petition. Let's effort move forward. So there has been an effort going on at the same time to have a referendum put out to the voters on whether or not they want Cop City. It has been thwarted, but finally that's changing because a group of activists filed a lawsuit against the city for doing this. So this is from the AP. Facing a lawsuit from opponents of Atlanta's proposed police and firefighter training center, known as Cop City, I'm adding that. The city clerk on Wednesday approved a petition that seeks to force a voter referendum on halting the complex. The approval of the petition, which the clerk had twice rejected over technicalities, clears a significant hurdle for Stop Cop City activists who have been gearing up to gather more than 70,000 signatures by August 15th. Hang on. Really? An ad just popped up on my screen. Hold on. 70,000
cool
signatures, no, by August 15th in order to get on the November ballot. Demonstrators say they'll be able to start gathering signatures Thursday, barring any other delays from the clerk's office. That's today, Thursday. We are grateful that the municipal clerk has fulfilled her legal obligation to recognize our repeated efforts to incorporate her requested changes in a timely manner, said Mariah Parker, who filed the initial petition. Irate over Walden's earlier rejection of the petition, activists had filed a lawsuit against the against the city on Tuesday and asked a judge to force Walden to approve the form. So that is good news. We'll have to keep our eyes.
That's good news. Well, and it also goes to show you, it's like the people are pretty united on this.
Yeah.
And it's just like the bureaucrats that are standing in their way because of their relationship with these developers. So in many ways, it is sad to see. It is sad to see like local government thumb their nose at the will of the people this way. It is sad to see bureaucrats literally, I think, doing shenanigans to slow it down further. But it's good that the people are so loud that that they can't be ignored, and that eventually these people have to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And the other lesson here, folks, local elections matter a lot, an awful lot. Don't forget.
They do matter. They do.
Hopefully the people who are, the biggest culprits here, that they pay for it at the ballot box. I mean, honestly,
I think that is absolutely going to be the case. I also think this referendum will have a more than good chance of going through based on what I'm seeing. I mean, the majority of voters don't seem to want this thing built. So if a referendum is put to the people and they reject it, what happens next? Is the city council going to try to find another way to do it anyway? I mean, I wouldn't blame them.
Well, all the people we talk to are pretty confident that they're going to be able to stop this thing, and so I'm kind of like leaning into their confidence. They're the ones that are there. You'll be there next week, so you'll get a better temperature firsthand too. Since it's been a while since you've been there. So I'm hoping that's the case, and we get a citizen victory on this one. And who would want this? Like, who would be like, do you want us to build a Death Star in the middle of your community?
In the middle of the forest?
No, why not?
And I've said this before, Ron, it's really wild to me. If they came back like a little bit on what they were trying to do, like, do you really need 12 gun ranges? Do you really need a Black Hawk landing pad? Do you really need, like, if they did something much more smaller and aligned, people wouldn't be up in a roar over this. I mean, they could go to one of the other existing sites and expand them a little bit, revamp them some. There are ways that they could get a decent public training center that would fulfill the needs that they have on their list. This is just a ridiculously over the top thing that they want to do.
Yeah, you know what? If they want to focus on better training, I don't think the solution is at a gun range. I think the solution is meeting with counselors and mental health professionals and taking them out when appropriate and things like that, and nonviolent de-escalation. I think that's some of the better training that I'd be interested in, and you don't need a freaking Death Star facility to do that. So fuck them.
Ron is on a roll today. All right.
I've
So
been
now
traveling.
you've been traveling. All right. So UPS, Teamsters, is it a
Yeah.
Teamsters hardcore union here? So they overwhelmingly authorized a strike if no deal is reached by August 1st. So again, we're seeing more of the labor awakening in the country. So members of the Teamsters union voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike at United Parcel Service in a vote announced Friday. But a strike is still more than 7 weeks away if it happens at all. The members of the country's largest delivery service voted 97% in favor of authorizing a strike to start on August 1st if there is no agreement in contract talks now taking place between the company and the union. The Teamsters represent more than 340,000 UPS logistics warehouse workers and package delivery drivers nationwide. This vote shows that hundreds of thousands of Teamsters are united and determined to get the best contract in our history at UPS. If this multi-billion-dollar corporation fails to deliver on the contract that our hardworking members deserve, UPS will be striking itself. The strongest leverage our members have is their labor, and they are prepared to withhold it to ensure UPS acts accordingly, according to Sean O'Brien, Teamsters General President. So it's important to note that this is a common practice of labor unions. They will go to their membership and ask for a strike authorization during their negotiations because they know that they can use that as leverage. If they come to the table when they're negotiating, they say, listen, 97% of our members will go on strike. They are fine doing that. You need to know that. They can come away so often with a better agreement than what they had if they did not have that strike authorization. So it might not reach that. They might be able to get the deal. We'll have to keep our eyes on that.
Yep, and we will. And I'm glad that they voted to authorize the strike. And I hope it can be prevented. I hope that they get a good contract and it's a fair contract and the workers are for it. But we'll see what happens. Now they know, like, if they don't, there's going to be a strike. And I'm never optimistic that, like they're going to get a fair shake. So I have a feeling there will be a strike August 1st, but we'll see. There's been a lot of warning here. You know, I mean, it's June,
The
and they
Teamsters
know
don't
they're
play.
like, all right, the Teamsters don't play, so we'll see. Maybe they will be able to prevent a strike here, but if not, it looks like they're going to have to do it, and you know that seems to be the trend right now. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. But I'm glad they voted to authorize it because that usually that's what you have to do.
All right. So what should we do next? We have facial recognition. Twitter
Yeah,
is
let's go there.
You wanna do that
Let's
one
go
next?
to
Okay.
facial recognition. Yeah, we'll go there. So this is actually a pretty cool story. That of course, full disclaimer, I have some involvement in because this was from Fight for the Future, who I collaborate with. But there's been a big campaign to ban facial recognition at live events. This, of course, was inspired on the heels of when a woman was removed from a concert because she works for a law firm that was involved in a lawsuit that involved Madison Square Garden. She wasn't even involved in that particular lawsuit. She just worked at the firm, and her and her daughter were removed from a holiday concert because of facial recognition. It was so ridiculous, but it's really bothersome to have this type of technology at live events.
Why was
There's
she
no reason
removed
for it.
though? Like was
Because she set off an alarm of like just somebody who should be removed, but it was for that reason. It was because she worked for a lawsuit, or excuse me, for a
I
law
see what you're
firm
saying.
that was involved in a suit. She had nothing to do, even if she did have something to do with that suit, that's kind of
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it just doesn't make sense to me.
Like,
I'm
she's just doing
what?
her job. But yeah, they just kicked her out of the venue with her daughter. It was like a holiday show. It was like some kids' holiday show. And she got booted. And so, you know, and it's just, I mean, these databases are easily susceptible to hacking. There's a huge invasion of privacy here. There's no reason for this technology, especially not at concerts, at live events. So, the campaign for this has picked up steam, and Rolling Stone did a write-up on it. Among some of the artist signees, Tom Morello, Zach De La Rocha, Boots Riley.
Alrighty.
They're all on board. Oh, and also I signed it too, by the way. Ron Placone is also listed there, but I did not make the Rolling Stones list, which
you
I
didn't
understand.
make the headline? You didn't
But
make the headline?
I did not
what?
make the headline. I did not make the headline, but over 100 artists, including Rage Against the Machine
I mean, to
co-founders,
be fair,
Tom
Rage
Morello.
Against the Machine is that's some competition, Ron.
Yeah, just a little bit, but Tom and Zach De La Rocha both on board. Boots Riley, Speedy Ortez, they've all announced they're boycotting any concert venue that uses facial recognition technology. This was organized by the digital rights group Fight for the Future, who, full disclaimer, I collaborate with. Some of the venues: House of Yes in Brooklyn, Lyric Hyperion in Los Angeles, Black Cat in DC. Some of the other artists: Anti-Flag, Wheatus, Downtown Boys, and over 80 additional artists. That includes me. I'm one of the 80 additional artists. But yeah, so this is some good news. You can go sign the petition. If you are a venue or an artist yourself, you can go to banfacialrecognition.com/venues and sign as an artist or a venue. If you're just not an artist or a venue, you can still go to banfacialrecognition.com and sign that petition. So please go and show your support. Thank you very much, Colin, for bringing that up. Just banfacialrecognition.com, or if you are an artist or venue yourself, banfacialrecognition.com/venues, and you can sign it as an artist or a venue. That you will not participate in that. I usually don't play venues that are of the size that they're using facial recognition technology, but should that situation, well, I will say this though, sometimes one of the comedy venues that uses facial recognition technology is Joe Rogan's Comedy Club. Yeah, so I will not be, I mean, next time I play Austin,
surprised?
it won't be there. Well, honestly, I'm a little surprised. Like I'm surprised that they would have something like that there at any comedy club, really. But for whatever reason, they're using it, and yeah. So I wouldn't, every now and again, people ask me like, "Oh, are you playing Joe Rogan's Comedy Club in Austin?" And I'm like, "Well, next time I play Austin, it wouldn't be there because they use that technology." So I hope they stop. I hope all venues that are using it stop. But yeah, and you can sign that petition, banfacialrecognition.com/venues, or just banfacialrecognition.com. So a little bit of good news. And folks, I'll let you know where you can catch me on the road, because I'm on the road right now. I'm not in my home turf, but tomorrow night, Detroit area. I know I'm going to be seeing some of you there. I can't wait to see you. Detroit, June 23rd. Tomorrow, I leave tomorrow. June 28th, Bloomington, Indiana. That's a show with the Funny Times magazine, which carries Lucy and Ron. And June 29th, Chicago, Illinois. And then Edinburgh, Scotland, I'll be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival August 16th through 27th at 4 p.m. daily. More information and tickets can be found on my website, ronplacone.com. Oh, and October 21st, doing a comedy series in my neighborhood of San Pedro. Tickets and all info, ronplacone.com. Oh, and some of you emailed me about Edinburgh. Yes, my shows in Edinburgh are free. I'm part of the free Fringe Fest. So you can get more information at my website, ronplacone.com, for those Edinburgh shows. And I will say, the momentum has been kept up. We have had Status Coup folks at Madison and in Minneapolis. I was in Madison last week, Minneapolis last week. Status Coup people everywhere. So Midwest, got to keep showing up. We got Detroit, Bloomington, Chicago, and then, of course, we're going overseas. But so far, there's been Status Coup people at every show this year, and hopefully that streak does not end. So, yeah.
Hopefully not, yeah. So I wanted to also talk about this breaking news that came out, that really flying under the rug here, but I do think it's important, about Twitter. They've been threatening to remove API access to a lot of third-party apps. They have already done that.
Well,
with
they
some
already
of them.
have, yeah.
Yeah, not across the door. But then they started selling access to the API. So I think the cost has been variant between $100 to $42,000 a month. For $42,000 a month, you get access to the whole thing. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because a lot of academics and researchers had access previously to Twitter through something called the Decahose. Decahose was an API access interface where they would get 10% reading from all of the tweets that were going on that day. So it made it easier for researchers and whatnot to kind of track misinformation, disinformation, extremist opinions, hate groups, all of these sorts of things, right? It was very useful. So now Twitter has announced this was an exclusive reporting that came out, that they are pulling the plug unless these academic researchers and whatnot pay $42,000 a month, for what they used to get for free from Twitter, right? And if they don't pay the $42,000, they lose the access. And even worse, Twitter is telling them that they have to delete all of the data they already have pulled from Twitter over the last few years. I don't know how they can legally get away with doing this.
Well, what happened
They're asking
was
for screenshots. They're asking for screenshots from the researchers saying, you've deleted all of this data you've pulled. I wanted to read this quote really quickly, and then I'll get your thoughts on this. So from the article, Colin, if you want to put this up, academics must delete historical Twitter data. Today, we're learning that not only will researchers lose access to ongoing data, but they must delete Twitter data obtained before the API was paywalled, the Independent reports. Academic researchers have been set a deadline of the end of the month to delete data they obtained under historic contracts to study Twitter, unless they pay the new $42,000 a month contract, a demand one called the big data equivalent of book burning, which is true because they have loads and loads of this data. An email seen by the Independent says researchers who don't sign the new contract will need to expunge all Twitter data stored and cached in their systems. Researchers will be required to post screenshots that showcase evidence of removal. They have been given 30 days after their agreement expires to complete this process. The changes to the Twitter API are having catastrophic effects on our research into the speed of disinformation and its harms, the manipulation of social media, and the vulnerability of people and platforms to online abuse, says Filippo Menzicar, director of the Observatory on Social Media at Indiana University. Twitter is making it impossible to conduct the very research that alerted the world about the risks and pathologies of social media. So I think this is true. I think part of me really thinks that that's intentional. I've said this before. I don't think Elon Musk is some purveyor of free speech. I think that's a ridiculous thing that has been put out.
No, he doesn't even understand how it works.
He wants to control speech. He doesn't want to be the purveyor of free speech, right? And part of what he's turned Twitter into at this point is a giant platform of disinformation. He has given priority to views to people that are spouting nonsense because they're paying him $8 a month. You look at some of the things I call them $8 Chan, because I just think that kind of exemplifies what they are perfectly. But, they're just saying all of these things that are not true, and nothing, it is getting priority. It's getting shown more often. Last week, Ron, I reported a tweet because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was a neo-Nazi account, White Lives Matter. had, and no, actually, it wasn't the White Lives Matter. It was one of their associates' personal accounts. He had posted this neo-Nazi propaganda film in its entirety, in clips all the way down. It was like 10 tweets of the whole film. And like, I'm not saying that this is hyperbole. It is absolutely a neo-Nazi propaganda film. Even Wikipedia says so, which I normally don't source as a source for obvious reasons. But point being, this is not hyperbolic to say that this was a neo-Nazi film. I reported it, and Twitter came back and told me that it was not hateful conduct. I'm like, really?
Well,
like an
I mean,
actual Nazi prop is not like what? So
did
this is
the
what
film
we're dealing
did
with.
the film ever describe something as cis? Because that's the only way it would be.
Well, so
That's-
you see what I'm saying?
He has
So
a
this
big
is a
problem
guy-
with that.
He has a big problem with cis. This is a guy with a very clear political agenda at this point. I think he knows that his commitment isn't to veracity or to truth or, to free speech or any of these things that are, in the public interest. It's to him controlling speech, moving the dial in a certain direction that where his priorities are as a billionaire, where his priorities are as I think he's kind of a right-wing anarcho-capitalist extremist of some sort at this point. He obviously hates trans people,
Yeah.
right? Like yesterday he was saying cis and cisgender are slurs. That's absolutely ludicrous. What a ridiculous thing to say. This is not a slur. Meanwhile, though,
I think he's just an ignoramus. I mean, he's an ignoramus who has no idea what he's doing. He's flying by the seat of his pants. He's basically his politics. I would say if you want, I mean, I think anarcho-capitalist is by definition accurate. Like, I think he's definitely an anarcho-capitalist, but in the contemporary sense, he's just a knee-jerk reactionary. He's just a knee-jerk reactionary because all of his little fanboys are knee-jerk reactionaries. So he's running Twitter. He's running Twitter like a knee-jerk reactionary. He's just like, yeah, you're annoying me. So now cis is a slur. You know what? You have to pay for the API now. You know what? You have to delete all the information. And so,
but
it just gets more
swastikas
and more
are hate
absurd.
symbols. Like it's so absurd. But my point, yeah, I agree with you. It's totally absurd. But I think point being from me is like he's basically saying things are clearly identifiably hate speech. Like this is not up for debate. You've got a swastika. You're promoting neo-Nazi films. Like, is there a debate to be had on that? I don't think there is. And where there is a debate to be had, cisgender, for example, he's like saying, no, that's hate speech. It doesn't make any damn sense. Like this is
That's like, I mean, that's like saying like, oh, you're straight male is hate speech. Like it's just
it doesn't make any sense.
It's just
Ron.
accurate. Like, what do you? Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. But getting back to the API thing, so API, we actually did talk about this some on the show last week, and I did a short video about it too on Status Coup. It's basically like it's the application that it allows third-party apps and so forth to communicate with a social media platform. So it allows things like Hootsuite, Twitterverse, or like restreaming platforms, stuff like that. It allows them to interact with social media. Access to the APIs are usually free, or it's something minimal, like maybe a couple $100 a month, which, when you're a successful app, that's nothing. Like that's no big deal. Randomly, Twitter decided they want 42 grand.
It's like, what are you?
And like, again, he probably just had some knee-jerk reactionary thing that he decided he wanted that. And
it's
now
not worth
other
it.
places, it's the reason why there were all those blackouts on Reddit, because Reddit is considering
doing something similar. You're right.
Reddit's doing something similar, and people were outraged. So I don't know if it's since been resolved, but that's why like everybody went dark on Reddit, and a bunch of subreddits just went dark. And this is a disturbing trend because it's really just ruining the internet even more. You know what I mean? Like it's just taking the internet into like a terrible path, and it's all just because of nonsense greed. I mean, it's like we're allowing a couple billionaires to just gut the internet. That's really what we're doing. And I'll, since we're on this topic, I will encourage everyone, go to badinternetbills.com, even though what's going on isn't like directly related to this, like the Reddit stuff. But this is like a great summary of all the horrible policies that are out there that's going to allow stuff like this to happen more and more. So go to badinternetbills.com and let your elected official know we're tired of policy that allows a couple horrible people to basically gut our internet, because that's what this is.
Speaking of the Twitter API, just since it's related, if anyone noticed, we're actually not streaming to Twitter right now because I got a notification that StreamYard can't right now. They're having issues with the Twitter system.
Seriously?
Yeah.
We're
There
not
you
even
go.
streaming there now
my
because
God.
You know, Colin, probably the reason
Twitter's
is they want
freaking over.
yeah, they want to charge probably StreamYard this ridiculous $42K a month. It's not worth it. Nobody's going to pay that.
That is such bullshit.
No,
God
yeah,
damn it. That is so frustrating.
What's really the worst part too, Ron, is if in the case of things like video, like what we're doing, you know, Twitter benefits from having our video on their platform because it brings users to the site, right? People will now watch because there's content and they're not paying to create that content. In the old days, you would actually have to pay for that content in order to stream it. So there's already a benefit for them having free access to all this content. Now they want to turn around and charge the content creators. That's crazy. It's just not going to happen. It will kill the site.
Yeah, well, and it already has been. I mean, the benefits from all those apps. I spent
very little time on there at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit from all those apps is it was more user engagement. Everybody won.
Exactly.
The platform won because they were getting more engagement. The app won because they were, you know, being sufficient and generating a sustainable venture. And the users won because even though you're giving them all your information, it was a valuable tool for you, the user. It helped you get your message out, whatever. So there were no losers in this. Like everybody was winning. But then Elon Musk just decided I should just burn this all to the fucking ground because I'm just a knee-jerk reactionary lunatic, really. And this guy is worshipped. This guy is worshipped because
I think he's crazy.
This is what happens when you break a society. When you break a society, people are going to cling to demagogues. They're going to cling to just the wealthy and the rich and these horrible figureheads. They're going to have and then you look at what's happening simultaneously: a disdain for the arts and education, an absolute disdain. I mean, look at the way people are responding to writers, to my group. Look at the hateful way
I don't get that.
They're responding to that. The way they're responding to actors, the way they're responding to writers. And some of these are even people on the so-called left who have an absolute disdain.
I don't understand that. I've seen some of that anti-WGA strike stuff, and it's really shocking to me, to be frank.
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And then you see a disdain for science and medicine. We've heard this record before, folks. We've heard this. Add all that up. What do you call that? What do you call that? A worship of demagogues, a worship of the billionaire class, a disdain for arts and humanities, a disdain for education, a disdain for science, a disdain for medicine. What do you
disdain
call
for facts?
What do you call all that? We've seen that before.
Yeah.
The record doesn't end well. The record does not end well. It's a shitty listen, folks.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
You're not wrong, Ron. No, you're not. Well, while we're going down that rabbit hole, let's just keep going. We've had two terrible SCOTUS decisions today. I don't know if folks have been paying attention to what's coming out of SCOTUS, but basically this morning, they're not going to protect access for the Navajo Nation to the Colorado River. So basically, these folks aren't entitled to clean water, and the federal government isn't entitled to protect their access to clean water. Are you kidding me? That's the first one we'll talk about. And then the second one, which is really alarming, is no right to habeas for people that are wrongly convicted, possibly innocent, sitting in jail. No guarantee that they have the right to argue their case to a court, which is I can't wrap my head around this. So this is what's coming out of SCOTUS today. All on the heels, mind you, that Alito has now been accused of engaging in some financial quid pro quo and corruption as well. So both Alito and Clarence Thomas are under fire for taking money from billionaires, Federalist Society. Leonard Leo, who I've talked about on Right Wing Insanity Report, has been part of the Alito situation as well. So, in fact, we'll talk about it tomorrow on Right Wing Insanity. So I'll table that for the rest of the day and focus on the two SCOTUS decisions. The first one I want to bring up is this article on Slate on Clarence Thomas's latest criminal justice ruling is an outright tragedy. And honestly, that's an absolute understatement. Hang on. They're asking me about my cookies. All right. So this is part of Opinion-Palooza, Slate's coverage of the major decisions from the Supreme Court this June. We're working to change the way the media covers the Supreme Court, which is a good thing. We need to do that. Many people watching Supreme Court opinions on Thursday may have breathed a sigh of relief as the court did not hand down any of the most watched remaining cases, like the challenge to the president's student debt relief program or the challenge to affirmative action, or the challenge to LGBTQ equality and non-discrimination protections. But that's only because a lot of people may not have been following the slow motion disaster that has been unfolding in one of the less followed cases, Jones versus Hendricks. Jones involves a highly technical sounding but practically significant issue about the federal courts may correct wrongful conviction and wrongful sentences. Essentially, the case involves this scenario. What if it turns out that the federal courts that heard your criminal case made a mistake? And as a result of the court's mistake, you were convicted of something that isn't actually a crime at all because federal law doesn't prohibit what you did. Or as a result of the court's mistake, you were sentenced to more time in prison than the law says you can be sentenced to. Can a federal court later correct that error in a federal habeas corpus proceeding when you challenge your conviction or sentence? Today, the court, in a 6-3 opinion by Justice Clarence Thomas, answered that question with a no. Can you believe this?
Yes, I can, because the Supreme Court is a scam and should be abolished.
For people watching this catastrophe happen in real time, the result is not surprising, but it is a catastrophe nonetheless. As Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote in her powerful dissent, the opinion unjustifiably closes off all avenues for certain defendants to secure meaningful consideration of their innocence claims. As a result of this opinion, people with illegal convictions and sentences, people who are legally innocent, will be stuck in prison for no good reason because the courts screwed up, not because they did. The law certainly did not require this result, and the Jones debacle carries a few warnings about the nightmare at 1 First Street. One is that the Jones majority is part of a larger trend of the Supreme Court believing that the court and all federal courts are above reproach and can do no wrong. Take Justice Samuel Alito's Wall Street Journal op-ed Tuesday night, the one that insisted he was entitled to take free personal jet trips from hedge fund billionaires with business before the court, and also to not disclose said trips because otherwise the personal jet seat would have gone empty. Or look at the months of gaslighting about how the influence and access campaign directed at the court's Republican-appointed justices is all well and good because, of course, the justices are above reproach. Jones is part of this trend. The cases affected by Jones are instances where a federal court screwed up. The federal court interpreted a statute incorrectly, and as a result, the court sent someone to prison for something that isn't a crime. Or they sent someone to prison for more time than the law actually imposes on that person. This is you get the point. So this is an insane decision. I can't believe that this is where we're at.
I can. I mean, look, the Supreme Court is a total scam. It cannot be reformed. It cannot be worked with. It needs to be abolished completely. It is corrupt to the gills. And at the end of the day, why would they want to make it any easier for people to get out of prison? They wouldn't. You know why?
I mean,
you think they give a shit? They don't give a shit. You're assuming there's any type of morality.
I'm not assuming there's that at all. I'm saying that we do have a constitution still, and it just shocked that this is like a step so far that it's like shocking to me. I want to put up the screenshot, Colin.
But they don't care if people are innocent.
Clearly,
we have a for-profit prison system. They want to make sure that for-profit prison system is met. We created a demand for prisoners.
Yeah.
We have a demand for prisoners because we have a for-profit prison system. So they don't want to make it easier for people to get out of jail. They want to make it easier to put people in jail. That's what they want.
This is very dangerous.
Tony nailed it. Tony's right. Amen, Tony. Yes. Smash the like button.
Yeah, at this point, you know what? I was one of these, like, let's get rid of term limits. Let's impeach the bad guys, but I'm getting closer to where you are. I want you to know that. You guys are convincing me that maybe is the case after today.
Let's convince Tina that we need to abolish the Supreme Court.
I'm not impervious to
I will gladly take the credit for pushing you there.
100%. It will be your credit to take. So I want to put up this screenshot of Justin Jackson dissenting something that she said. Colin, if we can put that up, the Mark Joseph Stern quote there. Yeah. Today, the court holds that an incarcerated individual who has already filed one post-conviction petition cannot file another one to assert a previously unavailable claim of statutory innocence. The majority says that result follows from a straightforward reading of 28 U.S.C. 2255. Ante at 10 and 12, but the majority reaches this pre-conclusion decision by negative inference. And it is far from obvious that 2255H's bar on filing second or successive post-conviction petitions, with certain notable exceptions, prevents a prisoner who has previously sought post-conviction relief from bringing a newly available legal innocence claim to court. Yes, habeas corpus, this is like ingrained in our Constitution. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be shocked by this. I am shocked by this.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be shocked. If they had any track record of actually caring about the law, that'd be one thing. But they're like a scam. They're like the Chuck E. Cheese animatronic band. Like if the law is frickin' Led Zeppelin, they are the Chuck E. Cheese animatronic band playing Stairway to Heaven via like a jukebox. Like it's a frickin' joke, but not a funny one because they have a lot of power. But yeah,
KBJ
so
wasn't
I'm
done
not
yet,
surprised.
though. I am, but I feel what you're saying there. KBG went on to say this: I am also deeply troubled by the constitutional implications of the nothing to see here approach that the majority takes with respect to the incarceration of potential legal innocents. Apparently, legally innocent or not, Jones must carry on in prison regardless, since as the majority reads 2255, no path exists for him to ask a federal judge to consider his innocence assertion. But forever slamming the courtroom doors to a possibly innocent person who has never had a meaningful opportunity to get a new and retroactively applicable claim for release, reviewed on the merits, raises serious constitutional concerns. I agree with her. I think it raises massive constitutional concerns. But then, here's the problem, right? This is the Supreme Court. This is our highest court. Where do you go when your Supreme Court is making a ruling that is clearly unconstitutional? Where do you go to correct that, right?
Try to get a
oftentimes
passport.
you get something passed legislatively but through Congress. But did you say you get a passport?
Yeah. I thought you were asking.
Ron, this
I thought
is why
it
I
was a
love
serious
you.
question.
This is why I love you. I'm getting all riled and heat up over here, and you fly in with a joke.
It wasn't a joke.
It was.
I guess it sort of was. Half joke.
Anyway, we continue to go down a very dangerous path in this country. This is just one more example of it. I want to now turn to the Navajo Nation. This is also incredibly disturbing. So let's pull up the Mark Stern. Also, Mark Joseph Stern, if you guys aren't following him, you should follow him. He's my Supreme Court guy. He always takes these positions down and makes them really clear to understand for people that are not attorneys. So the Supreme Court's first decision of the day is Arizona v. Navajo Nation. In a 5-4 opinion, Kavanaugh holds that the federal government is not required to secure water for the tribe under an 1868 treaty. Gorish and the liberals dissent. So I'm going to read part of this here. The question in the suit concerns reserved water rights, a shorthand for the water rights implicitly reserved to accomplish the purpose of the reservation. Capillard versus United States, see also Winters versus United States. The Navajos' claim is not that the United States has interfered with their water access. Instead, the Navajos contend that the treaty requires the United States to take affirmative steps to secure water for the Navajos. For example, by assessing the tribe's water needs, developing a plan to secure the needed water, and potentially building pipelines, pumps, wells, or other water infrastructure, either to facilitate better access to water on the reservation or to transport off-reservation water onto the reservation. In light of the treaty's text and history, we conclude that the treaty does not require the United States to take those affirmative steps, and it is not the judiciary's role to rewrite and update this 155-year-old treaty. Rather, Congress and the president may enact and often have enacted laws to assist the citizens of the Western United States, including the Navajos, with their water needs. That is not true. And I also want to point out that Biden was against this. He made let me see if I can pull up my tweet on this. He was not in support of the Navajos winning this legal battle. So let me just put it to you that way, because he was.
Wow. Biden was on the wrong side of something. You don't say.
Yeah. He had some worries that there would be further legal actions brought against the United States federal government in regards to that, as it should be. Listen, a big part of this reservation does not have clean water. They don't have clean water, and that is absolutely inexcusable.
Big part of this country doesn't have clean water.
Right.
I mean, look.
You're not wrong.
It's not just some reservations in Flint. I'm not trying to make light of what's going on, right? But it's like it's all throughout the country, and it's we are getting to the point. I mean, where you and I live in California. I mean, Nestle is champing at the bits to completely
They are.
privatize our water supply.
Yeah.
And if that day ever comes, and there's a good chance it might, I mean, we're screwed. Like, we are screwed. And I mean, when you see rulings like this just cements that we are going in that direction. I mean, they've already said the quiet part out loud that water's not a right.
Right.
Water is going to be, it's getting more and more scarce because, climate change comes into all this. And, the day that it gets decided that water is basically a precious thing for the rich and the elite, I mean, things are going to get really crazy really fast. And rulings like this just support that it's going in that direction.
Right.
If your water supply gets privatized, you cannot count on the courts at all. The courts will screw you harder. And, we're heading in that direction. I mean, people are arguing the United States is like barely a first world country anymore. And it's because of policy choices. It's not because we don't have the means and the resources. We have plenty of that, but it's because of policy choices. It's all policy choices that there are places in this country that don't have clean water.
Yeah. This is from the CBS report, or the ABC News report on this. The Biden administration had said that if the court were to come down in favor of the Navajo Nation, the federal government could face lawsuits from other tribes. I don't know. Maybe you should just provide clean water.
No shit. No shit. Doesn't that seem like a good solution? Just provide. Wow. And you know what? Joe Biden, it's unreal how horrible. I mean, he is even worse than I expected him to be. And my bar was not even on the floor. It was underneath the floor. Like, I expected pretty much nothing.
Well, to be fair, there's some areas that he's been better than I expected, and many areas where he was worse. There's some stuff he's done that I just didn't see coming. Like, he's been a mixed bag. I don't like him. I think he's very third way neoliberal. He's definitely of that part of the Democratic Party. And I would like to see somebody run in a primary to replace him, but I'll table that for another day. So I wanted to have one other thing.
The fact that he can't even stand up for clean water, at least.
Oh, it's messed up. Yeah, you're not.
I mean, even Obama
you're not wrong.
Even Obama faked it. I mean, it was bullshit. But even Obama, like he can't even fake it. Which I guess maybe in a way that it's actually better that he doesn't fake it. But you know what I mean? Like it's just
I do know what you mean. It's
just
gross.
So on the nose that he just Biden.
It's just
Biden is a conservative. Beth is right. But I would say Biden's a neocon. Like, he just is. By definition, Biden is a neocon.
Yes.
And so it's like, your alternative to the fringe right wing is a freaking neocon. Which is just nuts. Like
I mean, we've had a neocon president in power since Bush,
since Reagan,
as far as I'm concerned.
Since Reagan. I mean, I would say since Reagan. I mean, I think Obama was neocon light.
Neoliberals, neocons, same group.
It's the same. It really is. Because they're both warmongers. If the neoliberals were slightly, like if the neoliberals were slightly less hawkish, that'd be one thing. But they're not.
They're not.
So, yeah. So, way to go, Supreme Court. You should be abolished.
You're leading me in that direction. I'm telling you. With each,
I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that.
Because these rulings they're absolutely inexcusable.
That's one of my top accomplishments.
I mean, going after habeas, that's a constitutional right. What are you guys doing? SCOTUS, hello. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like this. I mean, this is shocking to me.
I'm gonna go upstairs and because my parents have this little container or a little candy dish full of black jelly beans, and I'm gonna get one and hold it up, and that's your black pill when it comes to the Supreme Court. That's I'd be like, take that, because that's what like black pill when it comes to the Supreme Court. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. That'll go on my list of accomplishments for 2023. It'll be like shooting a movie and getting Tina to go along with abolishing the Supreme Court. Those are two of my big ones for the year.
All right. I'll keep you posted on how I'm feeling, but I'm getting closer to that. I did want to bring everyone's attention
Sometimes,
to
not all the time.
sometimes.
Someone is Ron a happy drunk?
Oh, yes.
Usually,
I'm gonna say
usually,
yes. I've never seen you
yeah.
be anything but a happy drunk myself, but
Yeah, I mean, most of the time. I mean, like I have my moments where it's like, not all the time, but for the most part, I'm a happy drunk. I don't get drunk much,
right.
these days. So what are you gonna do?
I feel
But
that.
all right.
So we're going to Moscow for a second because I wanted to bring something up that's been flying under the radar. God, losing my ability to talk today. Today, a Moscow court on Thursday ruled that Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich must remain in jail on espionage charges until at least late August, rejecting the American journalist's appeal to be released. So I don't think a lot of folks know that this has been going on. A Wall Street journalist, reporter, had been in Russia reporting on some things, was arrested and charged as an espionage act. We've done this in the United States, right? And so now they're doing it in Russia too.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is
that's
very
cool that they're.
dangerous.
Well, I'll point out here, keep in mind when you look at the press freedom indexes that are actually worth a damn, not the ones that like the CIA sponsor and shit. Us and Russia are pretty much neck and neck.
Yeah.
And we're both like lower than the top, like we're both like beneath the top 50.
Right.
But the United States and Russia are neck and neck. So when people try to make it out like, oh, Russia is some big horrible bastion against free, but the United States is like, no, we're actually neck and neck. And similarly, on the other side, when people are so disenfranchised by the United States that they go to the other extreme, yeah, and they make it out like Russia is it's just like, okay, well, you're just just propaganda on the other side. In reality, both of our governments are very, very worthy of criticism. And when it comes to press freedom, both of our countries are doing an absolute terrible job. So if you think Russia is some example of what not to be, but you think the United States isn't, you're wrong. But
or
similarly,
vice versa.
If you see the United States for what it is, but then all of a sudden think that means Russia is nothing but roses, well, you're also wrong. There is such a thing as no good guys. I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but no good guys.
No good guys. Sometimes there's no good players in the arena. Anyway, I wanted to bring this up because this guy's been in jail for a while. It looks like that's going to be the case now until August, maybe longer, depending on what the next ruling is going to be. But, at a time when having journalists actually report things in the world, jailing them is very dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, and you'd think we'd be hearing more about this, but just maybe, the reason we don't hear more about this
is because the U.S. is doing the same thing.
It's because the U.S. is doing the same thing, especially against a guy called known as Julian Assange. So maybe, just maybe, that's one of the reasons we don't. The espionage. Speaking of things that we need to freaking get rid of, the Espionage Act. It has no place in our society today. It was written under the context of a freaking world war, where there was a world war going on and there were like spies everywhere because there was a world war happening.
Right.
That was
and
the
now it's just being used
the
to
Espionage Act was acting. So now it's just used against whistleblowers. It's a political card, and a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's like, oh, this is class. Well, it shouldn't even be classified. All right, so get rid of it. Get rid of the Espionage Act. Get rid of the Supreme Court, and get rid of the U2 album on your phone. I mean, really, they had no right putting it there. Why did they assume? How arrogant can you be, Bono? You don't remember why? You don't remember when the new U2 album was on like everyone's phone?
No, I don't actually.
When you would get a new phone, the YouTube album was just there.
Was that an Apple thing?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Okay.
Well, you repressed it. Good for you. But yeah, no, I remember it's like sometimes like the U2 album would just start and you were like, and you had to like look up how to get rid of it. Like it took, I went through the steps. I got rid of that damn thing, but it was a process.
That's kind of funny.
It was a process. Beth's right. Yeah. Get rid of the DEA and ICE. Absolutely. You know what I say? I say,
yeah,
the United
DHS,
States,
that was a George Bush creation. I don't think that I don't think we need it.
I always say
I think we should get rid of DHS. Yeah,
absolutely. This country is a lot like espresso, better without ice. But should we go with the chat? Is it chat
Yeah,
time? We
I
got a
think
lot.
we've
We got you guys are awesome today,
got a
by
lot
the
in.
way.
Yeah,
We got a lot in. So let's go. First of all, over on the Rockfin, what's up, Dave Burt? How are you? Thanks to Ron and Tina and Status Coup. Thank you very much for that, Dave Burt, over on the Rockfin.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Carpe Diem, Cornel West, Matthew Ho, 2024. I think Matthew would make a wonderful running mate. I like Matthew Ho. He ran for the Senate in North Carolina.
Right.
You get to talk to Matt. He's a great interview. I love talking to that guy. I don't know if he has any interest in jumping back into the electoral arena or not. In North Carolina, they made his life very, very difficult. He got screwed over on the ballot. And he had a lot of people working really hard for him. But yeah, I think he'd make a wonderful running mate for Cornel West. I think Margaret Kimberly would make a wonderful running mate for Cornel West. In fact, I was hoping she might go for, before Cornel West announced, I was hoping Margaret Kimberly was gonna take it for the Greens. But yeah, I think Matthew would be great. Margaret Kimberly would be great. Chris Hedges would be interesting. West Hedges. But I don't think Chris Hedges, I mean, he's already helping with the campaign, so I don't think he would get the VP nod. But who knows? We'll see. But yeah, cool. I'm with you. Carpe Diem. Chris, what's up? RFK would be second best to Cornel West. Disagree, but okay. And gracefully dismantling the empire. Disagree, but okay. No Medicare for all, though. That's true. Agree, though. I would like to see RFK at debates. Yep, I'm with you there. I don't share your thoughts on RFK Jr. being the second best. I don't think RFK Jr. would dismantle anything as far as the empire is concerned. I don't think there's any sincerity there. If I would say the second best to Cornel West would be Marianne Williamson. I do have some strong disagreements with her, but I also have a lot of strong disagreements with RFK, more than I have with Marianne Williamson. And I think Marianne Williamson is at least sincere.
I agree with that.
I think Marianne Williamson's a decent person.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way about RFK Jr. So yeah, I don't share your enthusiasm for that there, Chris, but I would like to see him on the debate stage.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would like to see him hold Biden accountable for Russia, Ukraine, whether his views on that are sincere or not. Hey, if he brings it up on a debate stage, that's a win. So
right, yeah, whether he's sincere or not, it doesn't matter. Let's have the discussion. I agree with that.
Yeah, Tony D, what's up, buddy? How are you? See you next Thursday, Ron. Yes. So next Thursday, I will not be here at Status Coup, y'all, because I have a show in Chicago. I'll be traveling.
Hey, we'll be on the ground in Cop City.
Oh, that's right. You're on the ground anyway. All right. So there wouldn't be a show in studio anyway. But yeah, so Tina will be on the ground next Thursday. I will be doing a show in Chicago. Tony, you will be there, which, by the way, Midwest, I'll shout out real quick. Tomorrow, Detroit area. Wednesday, June 28th, Bloomington, Indiana. Thursday, June 29th, Chicago, where I'll be there. Tony will be there. So come hang out. Thank you so much for that, Tony. And I can't wait to see you next week. Chris Deason, what's up? Thank you so much for your continued support today. Appreciate the continued East Palestine on the ground grind. Alabama railroad town here, and that can happen to any of us. Keep on it. Thanks. Thank you so much for that, Chris. And thank you for your thoughts and your support.
It could happen in other places. It's disturbing. Yeah, no, it keeps happening. But I mean, one that's even more devastating could happen because they're not really doing the things they need to do to correct the problem.
Yeah. Chris, you're back. Again, thank you so much for your awesome support today. And Chris, you say, yes, green enter, me too. Awesome. My state will be red no matter what. I'm going to try to work with the Greens. For the Greens, West 24. Yeah, I think I'm going to, Tina, we should both do it. You want to green enter with me?
I'm not supposed to talk about that stuff.
It's like, what do you mean you're not supposed to talk about being a citizen? What do you mean? What
no, because I'm a journalist. I'm not supposed to talk about that.
You're not allowed to be registered.
I have voted green.
If you're a journalist?
No, I'm allowed to do that.
That doesn't make any sense.
Publicly endorse anything. Having said that, well,
yes, you can. You can publicly.
Having said that, I have 100% voted for Green Party candidates in the past.
We should register Green together. Well, I'm registered. We're both registered. Are you allowed to say that? Are you allowed to say I'm a registered voter?
I'm registered NPP.
Yeah, me too. No party preference. Yeah, NPP, not MPP.
Honestly,
we're no
what I
party
would
preference.
like to do this year with Status Coup, I think we should go to the Green Party convention and cover it.
Okay. And you can register right there. You can switch your registration as green. You should green enter with me. We should do it. It's like jumping into a green swimming pool. We'll just jump in like wee. Not just, I mean, do it everyone, but yeah, but yeah, I think I'm gonna green enter so I can so I can just have a say in their primary. Yeah. So I'm with you, Chris. Right
Let me
on.
ask you a question. Is it possible to like green enter and vote in their primary and then Dem enter and vote in their primary if they're 2 different months? Like, is that even a thing?
You should try. Why not try? Try and report back on it. How's that? For sure, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna try to green enter and then Dem enter.
Because I have
technically-
re-registered. I will say this: I have re-registered as a Democrat to vote in certain things 100%. Then I leave and go back to NPP. Then I've done a bunch of things like that.
So the way it works here in California, we have open primaries unless they decide they're not. So it's like we have open primaries unless they're like, screw you, we're not having open primaries. Then all of a sudden we don't. So it's like we have open
That's not
primaries.
a state thing. That's a party thing.
Yeah. So that's how it works. And so yeah, I mean, I'm registered, no party preference. And back when Bernie was running, if you were registered no party preference, you had to make sure you got a crossover
ballot. Well,
Yeah,
I will say this: the Republican
Bernie.
Party didn't even have that, right? You had to be registered as a Republican, even though the state is asking for open primaries. So
yeah, the party can still
shocking as
overrule,
that is.
basically. Yeah.
Yes, they absolutely can.
So it's a.
Listen, I think Cornel West coming into this race is a good thing. I know some people are going to argue against that. They're going to say he's a spoiler candidate, and what about Trump? I mean, I can hear all of those things already. But
it's already happening. It's already happening. And again, it's like again, I'm not a Democrat, so if you're a Democrat, tell your party to have a primary and get a stronger candidate. No one likes your candidate. Your candidate's grossly unpopular. He has underperformed his entire term. So if you're worried about your candidate, that's on you.
Yeah, their worry is that, or their statements are that the Green Party candidate can't win a presidency anyway. So this is
then why are you worried about them being a spoiler?
Right, I agree because what they'll say to you is theoretically you're correct. We need more democracy. We need to hear from more voices.
But now's not the time.
Right. It's what they say every time.
I love it. I love it when they say. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we go through. No, but it's like we go through this merry-go-round every freaking 4 years, and it's like
I've never understood it. I never understood it.
They are the most shallow, can knock them over with a feather talking point, and it's like, dude, the whole oh well, now's not the time. Now's not the time. We got to wait until the guy's a fascist. The guy's a fascist. Guess what? If you're gonna wait, quote unquote, wait until the Republicans aren't running a fascist, you're gonna be waiting forever because they always run a frickin' fascist.
Lately,
and you know why they always run a frickin' fascist? Because we've been doing lesser of two evilisms forever. So the sides have gotten more and more evil. So it's not going to all of a sudden go the other way and be like, oh, now's the time for democracy. The Republicans are running not a fascist. They're always going to run a fascist. Yeah. They're always going to run a fascist. Why aren't I going viral on TikTok with that one? It's always, well, now's not the time. There's a fascist. When is there not going to be a fascist?
I know.
When is that going to happen?
I think what bothers me too, Ron, is there's this idea that any one political party is entitled to votes without earning those votes. I think that's really problematic. I think, in a democracy, the point is you convince somebody to vote for you. You earn their vote, right? You earn their trust. You don't just say well, yeah, vote for me. Otherwise, look how bad the other guy is. Or vote for me because, well, yeah, I'm your only choice. And you're a spoiler if you don't vote for me. Like they go through this whole rhetoric. What they don't realize is they're completely turning off voters. The largest
Biden told me not to vote for him.
Yeah, that's it. The largest group of voters out there are the non-voters. Which is a really sad statement on where this country is at. Non-voters are the largest group. That means that less than 9% of this country is electing a president each and every 4-year cycle. That's crazy. That's not democracy.
Mm-hmm. Deha, how's it going? Good to hear from you, Deha. Fun fact, Dr. West dropped out last minute at a New York City anti-war rally in 2019 I helped organize. I filled in reading his speech on stage. I'm sorry he wasn't able to make it.
What
He
happened?
might have, I don't know why. Well, Deha is saying that Dr. West dropped out of a New York City anti-war rally in 2019 that Deha helped to organize. Oh, sorry he had to drop out. I mean, I'm sure,
Sucks,
I
yeah.
bet he
I
had a
mean,
good
did he
reason,
have, was
you
he
know?
sick or what? Yeah, that's what I would like to know.
I'm
But he
sure
gave
he
you his
had a
speech to
valid
read?
reason.
Oh,
Yeah, it looks like they filled
okay.
in reading his speech on stage. Well, right on, Dea, and happy future anti-war rally planning. And hopefully Dr. West will make that next one. Nikki, what's up? Thanks, Ron and Tina. Love to y'all and Lucy. Thank you so much
And
for that.
Lucy.
I miss Lucy very much when I'm on the road, but she's in good hands right now. A friend is looking after her. And yeah, I look forward to
Thanks,
seeing
Nikki.
her again very soon. And thank you so much for that, Nikki. Nikki, you're back. Greetings from my cat, Rowdy. He rocks too. Give Rowdy a bunch of pets for me. Thank you so much for that, Nikki. Chris Garrett, what's up? Thanks for another great show. Ron Placone and Tina, District 34. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you for your continued support of Status Coup. We appreciate it very much. Big Dumb Animal, thank you for the super sticker. We always love it. Thank you very much for that. Roger Meadows, first, hey, Roger, there was some public banking news here in LA. I don't know if you saw it. I saw it. I retweeted it. I was pretty excited about it. Stand up for clean water, question mark. He can't stand up, period.
He can't.
Boom. That's Roger Meadows. Roger Meadows. Penny Arcos. What's up, Penny? How are you? Thank you so much for the $10 contribution. Thank you very, very much. Penny, this is a tough one, but you say Espionage Act for Trump. Yeah, I'm against the Espionage Act. I'm just against it. And as much as I can't stand Donald Trump, I think he's corrupt to the gills, and I have no sympathy for the guy at all. But I'm against the Espionage Act being used. So,
you know, it kind of reminds me of this whole domestic terrorism thing. Like, so part of what's going on in Georgia and Atlanta is that these activists are being charged with a state law. It's a state law, domestic terrorism law. And, you know, when I interviewed Mike German, he works at the Brennan Center for Justice. He's an ex-FBI agent. He was basically telling me that the problem with domestic terrorism laws is that they always get politicized. So there's a reason that they don't have them at the federal level. So he was undercover with right-wing extremists, and they would use other laws to prosecute these guys. So if they, you know, had a ring of Nazis that were making pipe bombs, they would get charged with, you know, pipe bomb offenses, gun offenses, what, you know, things of this nature, not as domestic terrorists, even though they absolutely are domestic terrorists, right? And I think he's right about that, because the leeway for political corruption, the leeway for, like, you know, using it as a political tool is just too great.
No, I hear you. The thing about it, though, is domestic terrorism. That's like a very, you know, distinguished thing. Whereas the Espionage Act, again, it was written so long ago. It was very broad in its language. And when you interpret it today, you know, I mean,
Ron,
granted, domestic terrorism can be interpreted
Ron,
a million different ways.
I think espionage, I think that it can be used in the same way that this domestic terrorism laws. There's too much leeway for it to be politicized and to use against
I
political enemies,
understand.
right? So all of these folks.
I just think I wouldn't do away with domestic terrorism, is what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't do away with.
I 100%.
I would not do away with that.
But
you think we should just do away with domestic terrorism laws?
Yes. We don't have
Really?
them now on the federal level. That's what I'm saying. Mike's point is, like, we don't have domestic terrorism laws for a reason. And
just use other things.
That's right. And that's why what's happening in Atlanta is so problematic. His argument to me was, when I reached out to him for comment, his point was that we don't have them because they can be politicized. And there's 72 other laws on the book that we can use to charge domestic terrorists with, and do so effectively. That cannot,
I see what you're saying.
And those are,
I don't disagree. I mean, let me put it this way: if they started calling people like Dylan Roof domestic terrorists, I think I'd be more for it.
Yeah, he is a domestic terrorist, right? He's
he is a domestic
legitimately
terrorist.
a domestic terrorist. Like, exactly. Adam Waffen division, legitimately a domestic terrorist, right? Hammerskin Nation. Like, these are neo-Nazi groups that have, planted pipe bombs, that have stabbed people, that have engaged in lots of hate crimes and whatnot. So, not just anti-government, but obviously based on, racially motivated hate crimes. So there are all these statutes that you can use to put those guys in jail without having a domestic terrorism law per se.
All right. Well, hopefully they start using more of those. It seems. Saul Alanis, Saul says Tina is literally 30 years old. That's Saul's comment. I don't know. I don't know the context of that. I don't know.
I'm actually 52, but thank you, Saul. I'm much older than that.
The content of this super chat is classified, says Das Bush Fleisch. What's up, Das Bush Fleisch? You making the trip to Edinburgh, by the way? I know that's not necessarily super close to you, but it's closer than where I've been.
What, maybe 3 or 4 hours? Am I wrong?
From Germany? I don't know.
Maybe not.
That's a good question.
Actually.
I'm not sure.
Scotland, like
flight, you mean? You're talking flight.
Yeah.
It's probably about a 3-hour
hours?
flight. That's my guess.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's not that
52.
far. But it's not right in the backyard. But that's what's flight. I hope you're making the trip to Edinburgh. I'd love to see you.
Man, I want to make the trip to Edinburgh now.
It's a decision away. Tina, it's a decision away. Make sure you're there August 16th through 27th. It's not a cheap time to go because of the festival, but, it's a good time. What's up, Nikki? How are you? Green entering here in Arkansas. There we go. Penny, are we in favor of Espionage Act for Trump? I am not. Can't speak for Tina. I am not. I think that if you want to charge Trump, they should look at all of his financial crimes. There were so many of them. I would rather they look at that.
There's lots to work with there.
Under the Espionage Act. There's a ton to work with. They're not looking at any of it because if they did, they'd have to look at all the other financial bullshit other people do. Right. But I would much rather they look at that. The way there were just so many gross conflicts of interest while he was in office. I say look at that. I'm against the Espionage Act being used, period. And if I was like, oh, I'm okay. If I don't like the person, it's okay. It's okay if it's Donald Trump. Like, you can't do that. You just can't.
No, but
I don't think you
now
can.
We're back on that conversation about something being a law being politicized, right? We don't want our legal system to be politicized. That's bad, right? That's the opposite of what we should be doing. We want our laws to be applied universally without bias. Just to be laws, right? That everybody must abide by. So,
and if it's a law that you feel is completely outdated and just has no place in society, well, then you have to, across the board, just be like, yeah, this law should just be thrown away. And that's how I feel about it.
And we've done that with other laws. We have.
Yeah. Every now and again, we do show some potential. Saul, you're back. Ariana, I don't know. I'm not sure who that is. So
Ariana, yes.
Is that
Ariana's one of our favorite viewers. She's always with Humorous, and she is.
Very awesome. Okay, all right. I wasn't sure.
And she actually called on Right Wing Insanity a few weeks back. She called in. That was one.
Okay, cool. I was just making sure it wasn't like something else. You know what I mean? Ariana Negron is awesome. So is Status Coup. Amen, Saul. Right on. Deha. To clarify, I read his speech on stage. That's cool. Was it a good speech?
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it was.
It had to have been a good speech. All his speeches.
He usually, And so Jean A. Tina, please interview Chloe Cole, Kiara Bell, and Jasmine. I'm not sure what that refers to, but Jean A wants you to
Can you
interview
email us more information on? I'm gonna write.
Email more information, Jean.
Yes.
Please email more information. So thank you, Dave Burt. Thank you to Carpe Diem, Chris Deason, Tony D, Chris Deason again, Dea Co, Nikki O'Brien, give a pat to the cats for me, Chris Garrett, Big Dumb Animal, Roger Meadows, Penny Arcos, Saul Alanis, Desbush Fleisch, and Dea Co and Jean A. Thank you guys so much for all your generosity today. You guys were awesome. Thank you so much. Next week on the show, Ariana, sorry. Yeah, thank you. I just wasn't sure. I don't always think first and last name right away.
Ron acting like he doesn't see my 12,497 messages.
I'm sorry. I just don't. Yeah. Sometimes my brain wasn't working quick enough. I apologize. Thank you, Ariana. I appreciate it. Oh, did I say Ariana Grande?
Yeah,
Apparently, I
think
said
maybe
Ariana Grande.
I think you thought the other person was referring to a pop star or something at
I
first.
got confused. I was Ariana Grande. Yes, you are awesome. Thank you so much for all your contributions. We appreciate it very, very much. And yeah, sorry I brain farted there, but thank you all so much. Yeah, next week Tina will be on the ground in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'll be doing a show in Chicago.
Starting Wednesday night. I'm leaving here Wednesday morning. But I think the flight gets out at 5. I'm gonna see if there's anything going on that night, but we will be on the ground all the way till Sunday.
All right. Well, safe travels. And
Yeah.
yeah, guys, thanks for being here. Sorry about, I know my camera angle was a little weird. I'm on my laptop and yeah, and I'm in my parents' basement.
What
I'll
is
see
that?
everybody.
What is the poster behind you?
This
Robot.
was a CMU conference that my dad was part of.
Oh, right on.
Because he's a professor.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a professor there. So Detroit, I'll see you tomorrow night. Detroit. Wednesday, I'll see you Bloomington, Indiana, and Thursday, I'll see you all in Chicago. And Right Wing
We'll see you
Insanity
tomorrow.
report
Right Wing
tomorrow.
Insanity tomorrow. Yeah.
And I'm gonna go see my niece now. Thank you all for being here.
Night.